Got it. And so, let's now go more to Facebook. Live on Facebook.
Very creative.
There we go. Hello, everyone. We are so excited you could join us today. Welcome to Let's Be Live. I am Rochelle J. from Bobby Bead and the Upper Midwest Bead Society. And I am filming live from Bobby Bead. And we are so excited to be here today for you all. And welcome if you're on Facebook, welcome on Zoom. We are really happy you joined us today. It's a hot summer, July. And so if my air conditioner bothers you, it just kicked on, please let me know. If you can't, if it's okay, then I will continue to so our announcements today, since our fearless leader is on vacation, I just want to remind you all about the state fair coming up. If you have anything you want to submit to the state fair, the Upper Midwest Bead Society members have a case that we get to show our special things. So if you're a member who wants to show up your work, you do need to get it in to contact Marlene Morris and get her a notification you're sending it in, and either get it to her or to me at Bobby Bead by the end of the month so that we can get it to the fair. And so I think her deadline for the fair is August 14th. So, and we are going to be at the fair on August 30th. If you're going to the state fair in Minnesota, it's the Creative Arts Building. So as soon as you walk in the front door, then that means turn right. The first building is the Creative Arts. It's your first stop for fun, and stop and see different members of the Upper Midwest Bead Society demonstrating their different crafts and see all the different displays. Our case is themed. Beads are our common language. And so we're really excited, and that's Wednesday, August 30th, we'll be at the state fair. And so also we have really fun, our next members only meeting is coming up. If you're not a member and you would like to join us, we have 12 meetings a year. They happen the first Monday of every month. And so in August coming up, we have Christy Friesian. Hannah, do you want to tell us about our upcoming speaker for August?
I'd be happy to. Give me just a second. So I asked Christy to come speak to us. She is a polymer clay and mosaic artist that's located in Hawaii. And she is going to talk about the magic of creativity with us. How do you tap into creativity? Where do ideas come from? So I think probably she'll talk a little bit about what to do if you're stuck. And which is better, the process of making something or the finished something? And I think I know where she's going to go with that. But anyway, Christy is an award-winning artist. She specializes. When I originally became aware of her, she was really doing a lot of polymer clay, but now she's doing a lot of mixed media stuff and adornment pieces and tiles. And her style embraces an abundance of embellishments, which of course I love. And she adds glass, gems, pearls, beads, fiber, found objects, polymer clay, metal, so all kinds of different stuff. And when Rochelle and I were talking to her, you know, her bio reads that her work expresses joy and exuberance. And when Rochelle and I were talking to her, getting ready for the meeting, she that's what she's really about. She's just joyful, excited, happy, wonderful person. So I hope you'll join us.
We hope so too. And so if you want to become a member, go to umbs.org to the member page, and there's an easy click. It's only $35 a year, and you can click to PayPal to join, and we will make you an instant member of the group. It's a lot of fun. And so we hope to see you in the group. Otherwise, we have an event that is free to everyone that happens one Saturday a month. And so today we are going to make these wonderful Lightwheel earrings, is what I call them. They are beading inside the hoop. It's a little brick stitch pattern, and these are made with TOHO recycled beads. They are from sake bottles. So they recycle the bottles into glass beads. And then in the middle is a little lampwork bead. This one here is handmade by Hannah Rosner. And so that's how I got the idea. When you wear them, the light really shines through them. Let's see, there's the camera. And then with the lamp work, etc. I just think they're really a lot of fun to continue our brick stitch. But next month is August, and we have our very own Lisa Dooley teaching something. And so here, let me just spotlight her for everyone and explain to us what you're going to teach for us next month so they could get the supplies in time.
Okay. It's my checkerboard bracelet, and I actually have pictures to share, but I'm not too sure how to. So screen share.
Yep.
Okay. And then I can do that?
You can, you should be able to.
Okay, so if I put that, can you see that picture?
Double click on the picture.
I did. I opened it.
Did you click the green?
Oh, share?
Yeah, click screen share. The green arrow.
Yes, I see that,
So
but
click it.
okay. Okay,
And
there
then
we go.
There you go. So it should
And
appear
then-
soon. There you go. It's coming.
Okay,
Ooh,
so that's
pretty.
the first color, and it uses size 11 seed beads, size 11 demis, and 3mm fire polish beads. So it's very sparkly. I have another one. Oh, and you can see that one?
You can hit new share.
Okay, so sorry. Wait.
And double click on it.
Oh, new share. Okay. There.
There you go. Perfect.
Okay. So there's the black and white. And this one is very fun because the demis are the jet AB. Is that metallic jet?
Yeah, number 86. It's a jet iris. So it's
Jet
got the whole
iris.
rainbow on top of the black.
Yeah, so the demis give it a multicolored look, but the white sea beads and the black just kind of calm it down. And then I have one more.
They're asking if you have kits available, Lisa.
I do have kits available in my shop. I will put my link to my shop in the chat section. But I have kits for all of these. Otherwise, you can find supplies at our favorite bead store, Bobby Bead. But yeah, that's what I'll be teaching. And this one, so it depends on how many times you sew through the beads. If you want a stiffer bracelet, you could sew through it a few times. If you want a softer look, then you just sew through the beads once or twice. I also use 1G. But if you want to use Fireline will give you a stiffer bracelet also. So you have some options there.
Super.
So those are the colors.
Well, look for all the supply lists and information on the calendar page on umbs.org. And then you'll be able to find all the information about that. We have all our information also on Facebook, on our Facebook on UMBS page. And so, does anybody else have any other announcements? You want to say hi? You're more than welcome to. I do have a special announcement that Team TOHO, let's see, share screen. On Wednesday night, August 7th at 7 p.m. in USA, we are going to have our Peace Ring Live. This is our 7th year that we've been doing this project with Team TOHO, and it's a really fun project. If you've never heard about the Peace Ring Project, it is a really fun project where you make a ring with the TOHO ICO beads, and we have the pattern for free, and we have it downloaded and videoed everywhere. And then you take a picture of your wonderful pattern. Oops, what happened? Oops. No. Stop share. You share. Come back. And so each year we have a live event, and this year the TOHO beads are going to be live from the Memorial Park in Hiroshima. And so it is so exciting. Ever since the TOHO beads were invited to the G7 summit and created the little peace origami crane with the ICO beads that all the delegates at the G7 summit got to wear and were gifted. They've really proven that they are forward thinking, and the recycled beads is part of that. They're made out of all the sake bottles and all the different colors. And so we're having a special event, so please join us live. And they're going to be in Hiroshima live on Japanese television, and we're going to be live on Facebook on the Team TOHO Facebook page at 7 p.m. So if you want to join the fun of trying to share and save the world through 1 gram of beads at a time, it's a really fun project to make. And peace be with you all. And we're really darn excited. So this is our 7th year. And then also Team TOHO is going to Bead Fest. And so if you are in Lancaster, then we would like to invite you to come see us at our booth. Maggie Thompson and I, Team TOHO, which is Bobby Beads, Starman Beads, and TOHO Beads, we are sharing a booth, and we are having make and takes every day. So this is August 3rd, 4th, and 5th in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And it's at the Convention Center in historic downtown part of Lancaster. It is so beautiful area. So on Thursday, every day at 11 a.m., Maggie will be teaching her boho box weave. And then I'm going to be teaching the Lightwheel earrings. And then Maggie will be teaching her triple R Kumihimo bracelet. And then special event is we are going to have our peace rings as well, making on Thursday and Saturday at 3 o'clock. And then we are going to have a speed beading contest on Friday afternoon. This is free to enter for all. So when you're at the show, contact me at the Team TOHO booth and sign up to be entered. You have to put who can put 50 beads on a needle fastest, and you can only use the needle. You can't use your other hand. And it's a race on time and fun, and there's prizes for first, second, and third place. So we really encourage everyone to come on out to to come on out to Bead Fest. Also, there is a coupon which I wanted to share with you all that we are going to be putting in there too. So if you are going to Bead Fest, then come on, coupon, you're supposed to open, you darn thing. It'll be posted in there, so it's $5 off your entry fee. So we will be putting that on there too. So that's the fun part about you know, what we're doing. And if you can't make the show today live, then please join us live in Pennsylvania. So, now that all the announcements are over, we would like to spotlight. There we go. How does that look to everyone?
Lovely.
It looks good.
Okay, super duper. All right, and then we are going to just show you the pattern briefly here. What we're doing, like I said, is we are beading inside the hoop. And so I know a lot of times everybody might be used to, if you look in the smaller picture, beading on the outside of the hoop has been done for a long, long time. And if you haven't beaded inside, it's very similar, except for it's a hoop. And so it gets smaller and smaller. So that's why making these light rays is really convenient for the taper of the hoop. And so if you have size 8 beads, that's the main, you're going to need 5 grams of beads for 2 earrings. So each earring is only 2.5 grams. And then right inside the little by the bead here, if you look at the cursor, there's just some 11 that I have put in between that help to accent and give just a little bit of dimension around there. So that's why there's only 1 gram at most that's needed. And then in the center, I've used lampwork beads that were inspired by the lampwork beads that Hannah Rosner made for me for this beautiful bracelet that we've been working on together. And it's really a lot of fun inspiration with these rebeads and then the lamp works to match. So that's how I came up with mixing those together. And so it's really very easy to do anything in the center, honestly, that is a 5x8 or a 6x9. You could do a round bead if you want. This is more of an oval. And so if you did something that round, you might have to just skip one of those accent beads, make it lay straight. But other than that, so we are going to be, like I said, then you could use the TOHO 1G thread. Since it goes around the outside, then the thread really matters. You really don't want to see a dramatic, stripe of thread every 2 millimeters. And so match your beads. And if you're using transparent beads, thread color is really, really important. Otherwise, you might see a whole lot of stripes in your thread. And maybe that's a really cool accent. And maybe you didn't want it. So that's why, or you can use the new Fireline or regular Fireline, or since Fireline is so hard to find, the new Eslon Fire is the same exact components as Fireline. It's the same fibers, it's braided, but it's a little closer to the nanofill, which I really like, which is drawn. So it's not quite as flat, but it's the same crystal clear and then black. There's no smoke, but it's about 20% cheaper than Fireline, but it's the exact same thing. And I actually like it better because it's less flat. So I made my first one with the clear Eslon Fire 4-pound. I think the 6-pound would be just fine as well. So it just depends on the color of your beads and what you're doing. So that's why, and a size 11 needle. So we are going to stop sharing and let's all start beading. Oh my gosh, we're so excited. So, like I said, this is normally how people do a lot of beading around the outside of a shape. And so beading inside is no different if you've done it before. So to make our 5 rays of light, we first make a single brick stitch layer along the inside of the hoop. And I've spaced it out pretty perfectly for these new hoops. They come in a 40mm size, a 50mm size, and there's a giant 70mm size. So they're a pretty basic style that's been around for years. It's a 2mm diameter ring. And so they're very nice and sturdy, but very light. And so it has that hinged opening. And so that's exactly where we're going to tie our thread, right here at the hinged opening. And so if you open it up, there's just a little part where the metal meets it. And so this is where we're going to tie on our thread right there. And so the pattern says to use a 6-foot strand of thread. So that's a double arm span of thread. And I know that's a lot of thread for most people, but you are going to leave yourself at least a 16-inch tail after you tie this on there. And then that's what you're going to use to connect onto the lamp work later. So you're only really going to be using a 5-foot strand of thread. So I strongly, like I said, recommend matching the color of your thread and to your piece. And so please, if you have any questions, just let me know. And then, sorry, I forgot to turn off my notifications and sound. So I'm going to do that right now so I don't bother anybody. And so there we go. It's all on vibrate. Perfect. And so, but if you have any questions, please unmute or, put them in the chat and we will try to get you all settled. So I'm going to use the blue thread today, just to make sure that you can really see it online. I've normally been using a lot of the light gray thread with my blues. And so, but I really want you to see the thread. And I also want to see what it looks like to see how much the dark thread really affects these beads. And so we are going to be using the TOHO rebeads today. And I've got 3 different finishes here so that I can change the different finish in the rays. So that way you could see how just the difference easily on the camera. And so like I said, you do need to have 6 foot of thread. And so that is just 1 double wingspan of your arms. That's it. And so instead of cutting your thread off of your bobbin, if you're using the tiny little bobbin, you do need to pre-stretch it a little bit so that you get out a little bit of those kinks. If you're using the bigger spool, you don't have to do that. The bigger spool isn't quite wound as tight. But what I generally do is what I call beading off of the spool. So I bead as much as I need. And then I peel off the little label right here, just on the corner. There we go. And then I take my thread and stick it under the label and tape it down. Otherwise, you can take a piece of tape and tape it down. So now I have the right amount of thread and it's attached to my bobbin. So I can use more later if I actually underestimated my thread. It's not going to get in your way. It's just like having a normal tail of any kind. It's just attached to your bobbin. It's that easy. So step 1 is to take your hoop and then tie your thread right here to your hoop. And you want to leave yourself that little bit of tail. If you tied off to your bobbin and you're still on your bobbin, then just at least have 5 feet of thread. And I tied myself just a normal square knot so that it's permanently on there. And it's not going anywhere. And so just don't loop the little hinge part. So once you open it, if you close the hinge part, usually you don't loop inside the ring a little bit. So there's 1/2 of a knot, and now I'm just gonna make a second part of my knot. So it's just connected. So all we're doing is making a knot. And it's right here, right next to the hinge. And so how we start brick stitch on each row is you have to use 2 beads is my easy way to start. Diane Fitzgerald showed us a whole bunch of ways to start. And so this is my fun, easy way to start. So if we are making a 40mm hoop, we're making 5 rays. Each ray has 5 beads in the base. So that's a 25 bead base. So if you have a 50mm hoop, that's this size, then you're going to use 30 beads in the base. And the pattern says that too. It works out perfectly. This is a 40mm hoop. So we're going to put on 25 beads. So to start, pick up 2 beads, size 8 beads on the pattern that's labeled number A. And then slide your beads all the way down to the hoop. I usually pinch them with my fingers. The very first step is always the most wonky. The beads are going to lay so that the holes of the bottom of the beads touch the hoop and the top of the bead sticks upwards. So go around the hoop with your needle and come back up right where your thread exits. Go right back up that second bead where the thread was and pull it taut. And so until you pull those 2 beads taut, they're gonna be a little wonky. And so now, there we go. Those 2 beads, maybe the transparent wasn't the right color to use. There you go, move that. Those 2 beads sit with the holes upwards. And so now we are going to put 1 bead at a time. So add 1 bead, put it on your needle, slide it all the way down. And then right where your thread is exiting, hold that with your finger, your thumb, and your other forefinger, and then go around the loop again and come right back up where your thread was coming out of that bead. Hold that bead in place with those 2 fingers, and it's going to sit right there, right next to its little previous friend. And so I always pull my thread taut across the hoop and pinch it just so that the beads will stay in place when I pick up my next bead. So we are going to pick up our next bead. Remember, there's 5 beads in the base row of this. So we slide it all the way down, pinch it with your forefinger and thumb, and then go around the hoop and then go right back up that bead you just added. I pinch it in place normally, but my thread got caught on my mouse. And so now we have 4 beads in our base. We want 1 more for our first 5. I'm going to change color every 5 just so that it's easier to count and we can show you clearly on there. So once you slide that bead down in place, go around the hoop and go right back up through your thread where your thread was exiting. So now you have 5 beads. Now we need to do 20 more. So I hope you're playing along with me. So pick up your next bead. I'm picking up a new color. And I pinch it in place and go around. And this is the beginning of the brick stitch if you are doing the outside of the hoop as well. You're just going to add 1 bead after the initial 2. You have to have the 2 at the beginning, otherwise your beads won't sit upright. They'll sit sideways. And so And the 8/0 beads, you can go through with a size 10 needle and the 1G thread at least 10 times. So you can use a size 11 needle if you want to. I'm using a size 11 just because it's really long and I can use it as a pointer. But most of the time when I'm working with size 8/0 beads, I just work with a size 10 needle. Because why go to all that hard work? Just try to thread a smaller needle if you don't have to. And the TOHO needles are really nice and stiff, the size 10s. But the size 11 needle will go through there like 15 times. So if you wanted to, you could. But usually you end up seeing a lot of thread if you go through that many times. So I've now got 10 beads on there. The first 5 are the transparent rebeads. The second 5 are the transparent matte rebeads. Now I'm going to switch to the rainbow. I think these recycled beads are so cool. Lisa, you have the recycled beads at your shop for sale, don't you?
I do. Yes. And I have all the colors in size 11, except for the matte colors of them. But I have the rainbow and the silver lined and the transparent ones. And then Maggie Thompson, Maggie T Designs, has the size 8 recycled glass beads in her shop.
And if you're going to Bead Fest in Pennsylvania, the Team TOHO booth, which I believe is 419 and 421, is going to have all the rebeads for sale in size 11 and size 8. It is one of our special things that we are going to be having in our booth. The other special thing is the TOHO challenge designs of all the featured artisans. If you look behind me, the wall is pretty empty. I've been packing everything to go to the show. And so there's not many left. They're going to the show. It's so exciting. So we hope that you'll watch us on Team TOHO Facebook page. I will be doing a bunch of live things. Maggie and I will be teaching our make and takes live from Bead Fest as well, because we don't want you to miss out on any of the fun. We want you to have fun with us. And so, and during the speed contest, then you could cheer on your favorite contestants. Maybe. So now I have 5 of each color, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And since I'm using a 40 millimeter hoop, I only need 25 beads. So I'm just going to reverse the color back to the matte now. So it'll go transparent, transparent matte, transparent rainbow, and then back to the matte, and we'll end up. So it'll be a really fun little ombre of finishes on here. I haven't had as much time to bead a whole bunch of samples and all these new rebeads because I just got them. And so this is really fun for me to play to get some, to see how the colors work. They just came out on the market, and this pale blue matte really looks a lot like sea glass. And I think the green matte and the brown matte also, they really have that neat quality. And so if you don't want to pinch the bead to keep the tension right so that you always go through the correct hole, you can pull the thread just like I did again across the hoop and hold it. And that way you wrap around the hoop and then back up through the bead you just added. And so you're coming from the bottom of that thread right to where the top of that thread was. So you're always heading for the thread. If you remember where to go, it's always can undo one simple bead, but wrap around the hoop and back up through the bottom of that bead. That way all the holes sit upward. And I didn't bead all the way around this one because the 5 rays went straight from side to side. When you wear it in your ear, it's really nice and level. And so it might look a little, well, that's not the top, but when you actually wear it, that's how it sits. So don't be scared that it's going to be off center. Only by making several samples did I figure that one out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, one more set of 5. How are you all doing? Are you all at the same place? Some of you might be way ahead of me, I know. And if you get a little knot, it's because you're rushing. And so we were talking about that creative process, which is more fun, the process or the finished project. And my initial response is always the process. So I don't know what your responses are. You're more than welcome to unmute and start a conversation about it while I untangle my knot. And
I like the process. You just, it's kind of like a puzzle and trying to figure out a puzzle and then, you know, watching it kind of come to life as you make it.
I concur. And you're always thinking, like making little decisions along the way.
Yes.
And so you might not have initially started it that way, but then, oh my gosh, this is how it evolved. Wow.
Yes. That's the best part, is watching it evolve into something that was just in your head and then actually coming to life. And then I love picking out the colors afterwards, because that's like my little treat afterwards, is to pick out the colors for it. So
then you can make other colorways of the same thing.
exactly.
Yeah. Exactly. 'Cause I started with the green, and because I was waiting for the brown beads to come in, and now I've got blue on my brain. Oh my gosh, it's crazy.
Mhm.
And
Colors signify something. So blue is, I don't know what blue stands for.
I'm gonna have to look that up in color theory unless somebody is way ahead of me. And because I know that you're attracted to different things, or you're feeling a different thing because you're surrounded by that color.
Or
Blue-
an event happened in your life.
Oh, yeah.
Blue is a spiritual color.
Okay.
If you look at the artwork of Lenore Tawney, she used a lot of blue in her ceramics, and that was the reason why.
Okay. That's really interesting. Well, this is my love. My love is beading and creating. And so this is my serenity. So what does green mean? Because that generally is my favorite color. I go to that always, like gravitate first.
Green.
Vitality in life.
Okay. What's your favorite color you go to, Chris?
Green.
And Hannah, what do you go to? Are you still there?
I am, sorry, I was muted. Favorite color, the favorite rebeads that are the brown ones for me. I
Okay.
love them. I just think they're really pretty, and I probably shouldn't say this, but because they're not available here in the US, but I really love the black ones.
Oh, I know, the black are just gorgeous, so they should be out on the market. Let's see, Colleen says green, and, so, it's so exciting. I'm really, excited for the rebeads. So the black should be next year, out on the market. There's a few in Japan, so if you get to understand the TOHO dash beads.jp website, you can click the English version. But we're just gonna have the green and the brown and the blue at Bead Fest, but there are 5 finishes of each color. So I'm hoping that you all finish the 25 different beads in the first row. The tail thread is right over here by the latch. And then your new working thread is directly across from it at the front part of the hoop. And like I said, I usually keep this closed during the whole process if possible, and I catch the thread gets caught the least. But I do flip my hoop around a lot so that it's much easier to hold while you're beading, and then I just spin it around while I'm working with it. So what we're now going to be working is building each ray of light, which starts off with the 5 beads and then goes 4 beads and then 3 beads, 2 beads, 1 bead, and then there's actually a bead on the very top that's like a point stopper bead, and that one turns the other way. So, but in the main thing, it just is a super easy 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So what we're learning here now is decreasing in peyote. So if you or in brick stitch. So if you ever saw those earrings, which are a diamond on the top and then have the fringe on the bottom, this is the same thing that we're doing. We're just doing it inside of a hoop. So if you wanted to put fringe on the bottom of this afterwards, you totally could. I just haven't gotten there yet. And so I know it's coming. But what we're going to do, instead of catching the thread for our brick stitch, because I want these to be stiffer, we're going to be going into the lower bead in the row in order to come up through the bead. So there is a graph in the pattern. If you looked at your pattern, we're going to screen share the pattern here really quick so you can see that step. And so we just finished step 3. And so we tied off over here, beaded around here, 25 single. And remember, if you're using the 50mm hoops, you'll have 30 base beads and you'll be in the exact same spot. It's just a bigger hoop. So now if you look at the graph, what we're going to be doing is we're going to add 2 beads just like we did. Each row when you step up or start new has to start with 2 beads. So we'll add 2 beads and then we'll go pass down through the second bead you added in the lower row and then up through the 3rd bead in that same row and then up through the 2nd bead, the second one you just added. So it's just like the first step, except for you're not going to catch the hoop. That's why the hoop is not in the drawing. You're only going through the beads and then exit out the 2nd bead that you added. And then those 2 will shift over and nestle right above the first 2 beads there. And this bead will nestle right above the 2nd and 3rd bead there. And then we are going to add the 3rd bead the same way as we did in the step previous. Add 1 bead and then go through the bead directly below you, go up the next bead in the same row and then up the bead you just added. So now we're going to show you in practice and we're going to do 4 of those wonderful beads. So I always turn my hoop around and I hold my thread across the hoop here with my thumb. just to have it taut. And then the beads I'm working at are right here. So this way I'm going to pick up 2 beads, and in this row, or I'm using the transparent. So we pull the beads all the way down, and I'm beading upside down so that I can show you, but normally you can also hold it just like this, and I'm working to my left. So you're beading to the right, then you're beading to the left, and then you're beading to the right. If you have an issue with that, then I usually turn it upside down, and then I'm just beading across for myself all the time. So if you're right-handed or left-handed, it works the same way. So I kind of like that. So these are the 2 new beads I added. We want to go down here now through the second bead in that column. Move the mouse out of the way. And then come up through the 3rd bead in that lower row right there, and then up through the 2nd bead you just added. The first, until you pull it taut, it's gonna be a little loose. So pull it taut and you're good. If you didn't tighten right here at the very end, just pull those beads and then tighten again. If you wanted to make a little slip knot half hitch here to keep that tension there, if you're having issues holding the tension, then you could do that too. And that's just at the start of your little pyramid. So now we are going to add the same color and go through the bead you just exited. So that's the 3rd bead in that row. And now we want to come up the 4th bead in that row. And then the bead you just added. And so until you pull it taut, it's gonna not lay right. So just be patient and then pull it taut. So now this will be our 4th bead in this row. And this is the last one we're gonna add in this row, because we're going 4, 3, 2, 1. So now you're going to go right back down to that 4th bead, right where you came out of the first time, or just in the last step, sorry. And then hold it taut. So I usually wrap it around my finger, right like that. And then remember, we're not going around the hoop. You're just going up the 5th bead in that first row, and then the 4th bead in the 2nd row. There you go. You just completed the 2nd row of the pyramid, right? So now we are going to start the new ray, and we're going that way again. So if you wanted to turn it around, you're now going, so that's way, if you hold it in the same direction each time, you are going right and left and right and left, but it's just a little easier to do. So if you're having issues, just flip it over so that you can maneuver it right. So we're going up the 2nd row. So remember, a new row, you need 2 beads. So add 2 beads and then go down the 2nd bead in that 2nd row, just the 1 bead, and then hold your beads in place and they're going to nestle right there. So we want to move forward down that row. So go up the 3rd bead in that ray of light. And then you're always going to come up the last bead you just added. And so until you pull the 2nd bead taut, it's not going to lay quite right. So just be patient. So now this row only has 3 beads. So this is our last bead in the row. So then go right back down where you came from in the 3rd bead in that row. And then up the 4th bead in the 2nd row. And sometimes you can't do them both at the same time, so there's no pressure. And now go up the 1st bead in that row. And if you pinch it in place, it'll hold right there and not slide too much of your tension. So, yeah, I love Hannah's comment that everything needs fringe. I completely, totally agree. So now we are going to do the 2 bead row. So since you have to jump up and you need 2 beads, it's even easier. So if you hold this taut, we are going down the 2nd bead in that current row you're in. And then we'll go up the 3rd bead and then up the 2nd bead you just added. So now there's 2 beads on the top of that perimeter. So now we want to put the top point on here, but we want it to be straight up so that it is a top point. And then the stopper bead on the top is just like a stopper bead at the bottom of a fringe. And so it sits sideways. So I add 2 beads on here. And then I skip the top one. That's my stop bead. And I go right back down the 1st bead I added. And we now are coming out of one of those 2 beads here. You want to go back down the open one. So not the one your thread's coming out, come down the one that's open. And I'm just holding my stop bead under my fingernail so that I keep that tension, and then just hold it in place. So this very one on top is going to go sideways, and that's what we use to run around the ring. But I really want to lock these 2 in place here. So now I'm just going to repeat that last step. I'm going to go up the bead just next to me in that row of 2, and then up through those top 2 beads so that I can lock that bead in place. And so I'm going to come through the left side of this top bead so that I can move towards the beads I'm working on. Okay. So from there to there, because we're going to go down now. Once again, the very top point, and then down all the beads in this sun ray, all the way down to the very last bead just before the hoop. And so that just straightens them out all nice and pretty, and you have your first sun ray. And so now if you can see, mine is a different color here. This is now the 6th bead in the base of the row. And this is the first of the 5 of the base of the 2nd ray. So is everybody at this point too? Or are you still working? How you doing?
Looks good. I'm sort of zooming ahead a little, but
I
that looks
kind of
great.
figured. I just didn't know if anybody was on Facebook or watching Facebook. Hannah, are you got an eye on Facebook at all?
I do. I'm answering a few questions there, and it looks like we've got a couple of people watching, and
Sure.
I think everybody's okay. We're doing good.
Super. I just can't watch 3 screens at once. So I really appreciate all the help. And like I said, anybody have questions, just unmute. And so I'm switching now to the mat for this next raise so that there's some differentiation and we can help see. So far the dark blue thread hasn't shown up that much in my transparent beads. So this is all kind of an experiment here, versus the light gray that I normally would use. So once again, if you're following along, we are repeating step 4 again. You just keep doing these light rays until you're done. So we are repeating step 4. So we've got 2 beads, and now you're going to go through the 2nd bead in that light ray, and then up through the 3rd bead in the ray of that row, and then the 2nd bead that you just added. And if you pinch it, now that you're in the 2nd ray, the tension is a lot better, so you shouldn't have as much slippage. The 8/0 beads are just so big. The holes and the size D thread, if you wanted to wax it, you certainly could, and then it would be even more stiff. I usually wax it just with my Burt's Bees lip balm. And so you would have a little bit tighter tension if you waxed it. So we're just adding one bead at a time now. This is now the fourth bead in this row. So this is my last bead in this particular row, and we're skipping the hoop, remember, and you're just passing from the bead from one side to the other and then up. So that way you're not seeing a whole lot of thread around the hoop. You're only seeing the initial row. And so it's a really just light accent of thread, but it does matter. So that's why now we're adding the third row. So once again, that means 2 beads for the step up, and then add 2 beads and go down the second bead. Come up the third bead. And then come up the second bead you just added. So since the beads sit side by side, if any of the beads are a little off shape or wonky, a little bit taller or shorter, you will notice it a little bit. Your ray of light might just angle a hair, but just like the sun's rays, they're all over the place. So you don't really notice it much. So it's just if it's really small or really big, I probably wouldn't use the beads, save it for something else. But most of the TOHO beads are very uniform, so you're not going to have that many irregulars. With the rebeads here, I'm not finding very many irregulars either. If anything, the perma finish seems to run a little bit big, maybe. But maybe it's the optical illusion from that sterling silver lining. So now remember, we're down at the point of the second one here. So we're going to add 2 beads, and this is our stopper bead at the end. So skip that one, go back through, and then go through the open in that previous row. So that point stands up, and then just securing that top point one more time. Really gets that to stand up, and you can just push those beads while you pull your thread, and that will just slide into place. And then move forward, and we're going back all the way down. And not sure how we're doing on time. Let's see. Oh, yep, 2 o'clock. We're doing good. So now I'm on my rainbow row. Add 2, go down the second one, up the third. And honestly, I really find it easier to bead away from myself. I know it sometimes seems like you're upside down. And I'm not just doing this for the camera, but I was playing around with these things. And since you're going back and forth, it just kept the thread more taut. I kept my tension better. I didn't loop around this little ear wire thing as much. So finding a comfortable way to hold your project really will help your consistency in your tension in brick stitch or in peyote. Right angle weave, I'm not sure it really matters so much, but it seems like with brick stitch and peyote, I find that those two make a difference. And the beads sometimes will sit wonky if you pull too tight in brick stitch. So brick stitch is a medium tension stitch. It really is not a tight tension. The TOHO beads are very well polished, so they're not sharp or anything, but you're still pulling something at a 90-degree angle. And so it's going to sit in place all on its own. You really don't have to crank it. So we're adding our second row here of 2 beads, down the second, up the third. It works so fast when you work with 8s. I did my first one in 11s. And I did it solid just because it was so much fun. And I really liked how it turned out, but it took me forever. So I'm like, no way, if we're gonna teach something, we want some instant gratification. So the 8s it is. And I don't think they look big or clunky or anything. I really like the statement they make. Next to the lampwork beads, especially. And so. Alright, we're done with our third ray of light here, and we're just going down the very edge to the bottom. No, 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 I think the blue thread has enhanced the blue color of the beads. I'm not seeing much of it in like the screen video, so that's the fun about transparent beads. I think you can change the color of the bead with the thread. So maybe have some fun with that and post some pictures of what your designs look like and tell us what thread you used, what color thread, what color bead, to see if it matters. You know, I think color theory is a lot of fun. And when they hang in your ears, it's different than a bracelet or a necklace because the light really does transfer through it and will change and reflect. So I think earrings, you kind of have to really consider thread a lot more than a bracelet or a necklace. Getting to the point of our fourth ray of light. How are you guys all doing out there? If you're totally like done, just hang out and wait and we'll get to the addition of the lamp work in a minute.
So Rochelle,
Yep.
I did the green rainbow rebeads in 2 different colors of the 1G thread, and
Ooh.
I can show it if you want me to.
Absolutely. Let's see. Let's add a spotlight. Oh, let's just, no, here, I'm gonna remove spotlight. So now you're really big. Oh, wow.
So if you could see that,
You
there's one that I use that darker green for the rainbow color. And then the other one I used a white.
Absolutely. That one looks like 2 shades darker.
Yes. So
But
it does.
doesn't look like stripes. It just looks darker. Like more accented. Maybe it was a color line. That is so cool. That's a perfect optical illusion example of why thread matters.
It really does. And it does change the look of the beads.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're both rainbow, like I said, and they're both the recycled, but you could see one is actually darker than the other.
Absolutely. And it looks really cool. So if you were to do that in the same project, you would not have to buy 2 different colors of beads. You would just have to have 2 different colors of thread.
Yes. Yeah.
See, I think that is just so cool. Thank you. Oh my gosh, that is just so cool.
Yeah, I had fun with that when I made the bracelet too. I was using different colors of thread.
Oh,
And
right, when you did the, and you were using silver lined, right? In the bracelet or,
Yes. Yeah, this bracelet.
oh, yes. It's so pretty. I just love that. We showed it off in Pennsylvania last year. You should post a picture of that on the Upper Midwest Bead Society group so everybody can see.
Okay, I will do that.
It's so crazy. I keep posting other people's stuff and I always forget to post mine. So I kind of think everybody else is the same way. It's like, oh, I like it, I like it, I like it. And so we're almost there. We're creating the last ray. And if you notice, your tail thread is right down here at the last ray. So if you're starting to run out of thread, if you didn't quite start with 5 feet, no worries. That's why we're right near our tail. We can always easily add more. But you should still have enough to finish this ray without a problem. Going through the bead of the lower bead in the brick stitch does use a little bit more thread than just catching the thread of the lower row. So that's why you know, this project does use a little bit more thread than you would kind of think for being so small. So now we're at the very last point here. And so we're gonna do the exact same thing we've been doing with the other points. Where you catch it and secure it in. And we're coming down, we're still gonna be moving forward though, because you want to come right down the side where your tail thread is. And so this way you're ending right by your tail thread. And normally I don't recommend a whole lot of knots in my projects, but this right at the beginning and then right here is just a simple square knot so that your tension, everything holds in place. And if anything were to happen with the rebead part, it's not going to mess up your sun rays. And so I just did a really simple square knot with my tail. And I am going to wrap around the hoop this time and go right back up to the point of this last ray. So this is now on step 9, I think, or 10. Step 9 is where you tied off your tail. And so then we are just about to start step 10. If you're looking at the pattern, and we'll show that. So that way, if you come up back to this last point, go up through that last bead so that you are now, sorry, I'm backwards, heading upwards towards the ear part, the hinge upwards. So your bottom ray is here. We're just going to take our tail thread. It's right over here still. So if you still have a foot or two left of thread, you have plenty to add on to that. Otherwise, since you just tied off there, if you want to start a new thread, you could then take your tail thread. Remember, I told you to keep the 16 inches or else bead from your bobbin and then unspool thread and then turn around and come right back up to here. So either way, you need to have like 16 inches to 2 feet of thread just to finish. It's really not much. You could do it with a little bit shorter, but just to make sure you don't run out, this is your easy opportunity to do that. And so usually you pick out your lampwork bead to put in the center. It's going to be sitting sideways here. And so I going to show you on the pattern how that lays out easily. Oh, we'll screen share the pattern real quick here. I guess real quick is relative. There we go. All right. We did all of that and we added all 5. And so we tied up with our tail right here. And then we came right back to the middle and then we're headed upward towards the top of the earring. Remember, if you have a 50mm hoop, you're going to have 6 of these. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So what we're gonna do is add one 11-0 bead and then an 8-0 bead. Then we're gonna add the lamp work and then an 8-0 and an 11-0. And then we're gonna pass down through the point across on the very first or last ray that we did. And then we'll add 111 so it matches just like we did on the other side. Pass through the 8 and the lamp work and the 8 that you just added, and then add an 11 and then pass up through where you are. And so we're going to then secure that into place. Okay. So then we're going to come back through one more time and exit down this point to then add the other in between beads. So it's a really simple addition. So pull out your 11-0 beads if you haven't done that yet. And I'm going to pull out my rainbow green beads. So I'm going to mix blue beads together with green beads and have a whole party here. On the bracelet that Hannah and I worked together to make, we intermixed the brown beads with the green beads. And so the whole base is all the different browns and all the different finishes. And then the edges are the matte beads with the little stopper points. And then we've got some of Hannah's wonderful leaves here that she makes with, and these are the green. And then some of her lamp works. So this is really a lot of fun. And so mixing the greens and the browns, I think was really fun. So now we're gonna mix the blue and the green, because why not? So we're just gonna pour some of the greens out here. All right. So we pick up an 11-0. And then an 8-0. Oh, let's have an 8-0 green bead too. Oh my gosh. When there's so many beads to choose from, I want to use them all, don't you guys? There we go. So we're going to use some green transparent ones here. Some green rainbows. So I picked up a green rainbow. Okay, so 111, 18. And then your lamp work bead or focal bead, and then another 8, and then an 11. So then we're going to come down the other side of the point of the light ray right across, and that is just going to secure right in place. If you turn it around, you can now hold it nice and see what you're doing here. So then we are going to add one more 11 and skip the 11 that's already there. This one's going to sit right next to it. Go through the 8 and the lamp work and the 8 right afterwards. And then pull taut. And now we're going to add a little 11. And then pass through that top 8 on the other side. It goes sideways. All righty. So if you wanted to add some more accent beads, you certainly can. There's no rhyme or reason to these little 11-0s. You do have to go back across here. So if you wanted to add another accent, you certainly could add a little 11. And then, but at least pass through all the beads you just added. The 11, the 8, the 11. And then if you added a little accent on the first side, you could add a little accent here. You certainly don't have to. You won't see the thread if you don't. It's just an embellishment if you like. So now we have just finished. And so it's nice and secure in there, and we want to create the loop around the bottom. So between the first one here and the last one here, I have added a couple extra 11-0 beads just to keep that spacing a little bit more so the lamp work sits up just a little bit higher. And so, but if your beading somehow gave you more spacing, you could add that same down here. So between the first ray and the second ray, add an 1-11, 1-8, and 1-11, and then pass through that top 8 in the next one, the one that goes sideways right there. And then pull it taut. And now between these bottom 3, I was trying to pull those together a little bit. So there's just 1-8. So if you have a 50mm hoop, you're going to have 4 on the bottom. And so you're going to put an 8 in between those 3. But since we just have the 40mm hoop, there's 5 rays. So you just do 1-8, pass through the next, 1-8, pass through the next. It gathers that nice and tight. And now this is the space right before there. So we're going to add the little 11 and then the 8 and then the 11 just to give that extra. And then you're going to pass through that same 8 where you started initially in the beginning of that step. So you've just secured it now in this cute little hoop ring of beads and secured all your little light rays. But we do need to secure it more and run through it again. So if you added a bead, run through that extra additional bead and your 11-0 and 8-0 from your first pass. And we're just going to repeat the same thread path we just did. And so we run through here, the 8, and then whatever beads you added, 11, 8, 11, and we're going to run around the circle. And run around the circle. And so if you're feeling that this is tight enough that you like, or if you want it a little bit more firmer, you can just do that initial thread path that we did just through the lamp work and then through the first bead on the other side and then just back again. The lamp work sometimes a little heavy depending on the size of your bead. And so there's no rhyme or reason. It might be taut enough. It just depends. If you added an accent bead on the other side here, maybe you want to add an accent bead on this side too. There's no rules to any of that. So I'm adding an accent bead down here, passing through the 8 on each side of my lamp work. And then I'm adding my accent bead. Going around that circle. So it is just completely up to you on how you would like to decorate around just the edge of your lamp work. But in all theories, it is absolutely completely done. So once you get to the other side, then just go right back down the point and the 5 beads on the edge right to your tail thread. Your tail is right here. So go right back down to your tail and you can tie off to the same spot. Since this is right behind your ear, if you see a little bit more thread just on the edge of the ring, which it's only just a couple tiny little stripes, you're not going to see it anywhere because this is right behind your ear. So I usually just, after I tie my knot, I will feed my thread back through some of the beads, just so that I never cut my thread right next to my knot. Never, 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 never. I usually don't make knots, but in this case, it's one of those things where I want it taut tension for the wheel, the lamp work, because it's the heaviest part of the earring, to just stay where it's put. So if you want to, if your pyramids aren't exactly as pointy as you really like them, and you're just weaving your thread in, you're more than welcome just to pass down through any of your previous light rays and just straighten them out if you like, go back and forth. You're weaving your tail in, so it is just, you know, tying it off. But that's how you can strengthen anything. Instead of waxing your thread or doubling your thread, you can just reinforce it later. And if you're using a darker thread, like we were for our experiment, then it might show up a little bit. It might not. It just depends on. So that's why I try to stay in the same thread path I went before. So if the thread does get a little heavier, you're not going to notice it. It's not going to look funny or out of place. I don't know. Does anybody have any questions, comments? Did you all finish one earring? And are you excited to start the second one?
I love that design, Rochelle.
You.
It's really cute.
It's
Yeah, that's
just it works up pretty simple and fast, and I really like how using the different colors or finishes of the beads really worked well on this. I did transparent matte, and then rainbow, and then just reverse the pattern, and I think it's really a lot of fun to do. And so your other tail thread, if you didn't use it, you can just cut it off, weave that through as well, and you're done. You're just having a ball now, right?
yeah.
I'm not sure. Does anybody have any other questions, comments, pictures of what they made? And so how are you doing, Joyce? What colors did you make yours in?
Oh, I just
Oh,
took my center out and I put a red one in.
I really like the pop of color in there. And
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, that was fun. I can see all kinds of, different stuff. Like I might want to, because I'm anal, kind of want to fill it in some more.
Well, and I totally understand that. And when I did it with this one here,
Oh, there you go.
just be careful of your earlobe, because
Yeah.
I filled it
Oh,
a
that.
high up, like the perfect top of the circle, and my earlobe touches this. So I think that was maybe partly why depending on where your ears are pierced,
Yeah.
whether or not it sits in the right spot. So
Yeah.
let me put it in and I can show you. So this one was the one that I beat it all the way up. And so you can see my earlobe is the whole of my ear is a little high.
Oh, I see.
And so
Yeah.
it touches it just a little bit. So it turns it out just a little bit. And
That's neat though.
I think it is, but I have to position it right and then it'll hang straight. And if I didn't position it right, it'll lay out just because the whole of my ear is pierced a little higher. And so that's where, so just beating on the top of the hoop, you might not want to do that last row that I did.
Okay.
But it just depends on the size of the hoops too. With these,
Yeah.
it's much lower and but your ear, the way it sits is right on top and the weight of it is nice. So it depends on how big. I've got some 70mm hoops I'm gonna bead and see how those are. And,
Wow. Yeah, that was fun. Thanks.
I'm, it's, so I don't know if Linda or Colleen or Terry, are you guys, did you finish or you want to show what you did? Or if you don't, if you're shy, I totally understand.
Actually, I'm brand new. This is Colleen. I'm just joined, and so I didn't get the email in time to get any kind of supplies for it. So I was just watching and learning, and thank you so much, because I'm looking forward to getting supplies and going back and doing it later. So thanks.
Absolutely. And that's why we record the meeting and we leave them on Facebook so you can watch them anytime. And then we will be uploading this to the Upper Midwest Bead Society YouTube channel so that you can always find it on YouTube in the future. And the pattern will all be there as well. So we get it up very soon. Maggie's usually the one that uploads it, and she is on vacation for a couple days. So she will try to get it up on YouTube as fast as possible, but the recording will always be on Facebook. So you can instantly go to Facebook and rewatch all of this as well. And share with your friends and share the pattern with your friends, and post any pictures that you do in their comments too, and then we can see them later on Facebook, or you can message the Bead Society. Let's see, unbending. I don't know what you mean by unbending. Who was unbending? Terry. Oh, unbeading. I'm sorry. The autocorrect. I love it. And so I totally get it. So let's see. Also, if you are going to Bead Fest in Lancaster, I have kits. And then after Bead Fest, whatever kits I don't sell, I will have kits at Bobby Bead. But we do have the hoops at Bobby Bead, and we have all kinds of size 8/0 beads and 11/0 beads, and we have the TOHO 1G thread in 50-yard bobbins or 125-yard bobbins in like 20 different colors of thread. Let's see, anybody else have any questions? But yeah, if you want the rebeads, Lisa's shop is Lisa Bead Designs, and she's got a bunch of the reed beads at her shop, and Maggie T has some at her shop. I know that Art Beads has some. I'm trying to think of who else might have some. But like I said, my kits are made with the rebeads and made with Hannah Rosner's lampwork glass. So if you can always message me too. I shipped Linda, yours went out yesterday in the mail, and so you should have it by Monday, I'm sure. And so yeah, just message me if you want a kit. And we have them in the green glass, blue glass, and brown glass, and a variety of different finishes. But we're just so happy you could join us today and keep on brick stitching. It is so much fun to do, and you can always look back at Diane Fitzgerald's pattern as well on the myriad of different ways if you've got any ideas. But I really think that adding some fringe is my next step to this wonderful pattern, and so that I can, you know, just take it to the next level. Oh my gosh.
So Rochelle, the date of the next Let's Be Live is August 12th, correct?
Saturday, August 12th from 1 to 3 o'clock. So everybody put it on your calendar, and Lisa's got kits, remember. So if you want to get a kit from her, you've got quite a few weeks here to get it all, get it ordered, get it in the mail. 3 different colorways, right?
Yes. Yep, I have these 3. available.
Black.
So, the
and
gold
white.
one, and then the green, and then the black and white one.
We're very excited, and that information will be up on umbs.org website very soon. And we are information for our Monday night meeting as well is already up on the website with Christy Friesian. So don't forget about that. That is on Monday, August 7th. And if you're not a member yet, think about joining the Bead Society. We have a whole lot of fun and it's a great group of folks. And so we look forward to seeing you at our many August events. And don't forget about the TOHO Peace Ring Live. Let's bring peace to the world through 1 gram of beads at a time, straight from Hiroshima. And that's August 8th on the Team TOHO Facebook page. We'll be zooming live. And if you want to make a peace ring in between that time, we did it earlier multiple times through the Bead Society. So the pattern is available to download in the archive pages of the UMBS, or you can request a free pattern from bobbybead.com. It's in the pattern resources. And then there's also a YouTube video of it on the Bobby Bead YouTube channel, the TOHO YouTube channel, the UMBS YouTube channel in English, Ukrainian, and Japanese. So happy beading, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. Y'all have a great day.
You too.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Stop.